Hey guys, it's me, Kisa. Yes. So I wanted to talk about how God blessed me with the perfect job. Headed towards my purpose. I'm learning a lot of things that I need to know before I reach that point of my life. I'm gaining a lot of wisdom. So I recorded a video telling you guys about my experience with COVID. Anyway, so this was around that time. I was working a position remotely and we caught the coronavirus, myself and my family. And if you want to know more about that, you guys can go and watch that video. So during that time, it was about a 3-week span. I was working this position that was a project position. If you do not know what that means, it means that there was a date. When I started, there was a date for it to end. So I already knew that this position was not a permanent position, it was a project position. So when I caught the coronavirus, the job was still going on. However, I had to take a lot of days off because I was extremely sick. There was a lot of days that I actually tried to go to work, but I had to get off early because I just felt really bad. So there was a lot of money that I was missing out on. Just because you have the coronavirus, bills still happen. You still have to pay bills. You still have to buy things. And then, of course, I had a hospital stay where during that time I didn't get to work at all. So whenever COVID was over for myself and my family, I probably had like another week of doing this position. And then before the last day of this position, they told us that they had other projects and they would be reaching out to us to tell us, about other projects that we could potentially take part in. So I was like, okay, cool. So, this would be something that I can transition into without having any time off. I had somebody reach out to me. They told me about this position. They had a different amount of money that sounded okay with me, and they told me that this was not a call center job. Now, I told you guys already, I have 3 children, 2 of which stay home with me all day, and my 10-year-old goes to school. So a call center position is not something that I can partake in, okay? So I was like, okay, cool. It's not a call center position, okay? The money sounds okay. It is what it is. Okay, so I think it was actually the day before the project ended. They called me back so I could sign some papers so that I can transition to this position. I got on the computer and I looked and I was like, what is this? It was a call center position and the money that they made was about $4 or $5 less than what I was making at this time. It's not something that you typically want to do. When you talk about money, you want to go up or, you could stay the same for a little while or whatever, but going down is not something you want to do. And especially $4 or $5. So I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have a job by tomorrow. And this job and this money is not going to work for me. And I already knew that. But I talked to my mom and my husband about it anyway, because I was like, I really need a position. I need a job. Like, I don't know. They were like, how is that going to work? But you know what? You need to pray about it. I was already praying. So I was like, I'm already praying about it. But, I'm just going to keep praying and I'm just going to stop worrying about it. This particular day, I had a very specific prayer about exactly what type of position I needed, because I prayed for a job. God gave me a job. I mean, God was like, look, you need a job. Here's a job. But it wasn't going to work for me, right? So I was like, you know what? I need to pray a very specific prayer. I didn't have a specific position, but I had an idea of what type of position I needed. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to lay it all out here on the table for God and see what happens from there. And I had a lot of reason to be crazy and worry, but I was like, you know what? I have faith. God is going to make a way. This is going to happen. And I stopped worrying about it. I went back to the people and I said, hey, this position is not going to work for me, and I let it go. So I became unemployed with no other options at this point. I just kept applying for positions, and there was this particular position. I had never heard like this type of job before in my life. It sounded like it was something in like the IT arena, which I have never done before. But I was like, you know what? Let's see. Let's just apply for it and let's see what happens, right? The same exact day, I got a call from the guy who was the recruiter for this position. Now, this position is so crazy how God works. Like, I literally was one of the first people to apply for this position. But because I was on there, he seen my application. So he reached out to me the same exact day and was like, hey, when can you talk? And I was like, oh, today, anytime. You know, I was ready. Like, what is this? So he called me and we talked, and he said, hey, there's no interview for this position. All you have to do is take a test. And if you pass the test, then you have the job. And so I was like, okay, cool. And he told me about the job, and he said it was a remote position. There was no talking on the phones or anything like that. He just told me like what I do, what I would be doing. And so I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I really was so nervous, but I was like, you know what? If this job was meant for me, then I'm going to pass the test. So I seen the test and I was like, I've never done anything like this before ever in my life, but I'm just going to try my hardest. I tried my hardest, and then I was just like, you know what? If this was meant for me, then it's all going to work out, right? So I was not that calm. I'm gonna be real. Like, I was thinking about it because this was a Friday night, and I had to go the whole weekend before I knew if I passed it or not. So I was not that calm. I'm not gonna sit over here in front with you guys. I have faith, but I was not that calm. I was thinking about it all weekend. So that Monday, they reached out to me and was like, hey, you passed the test. Congratulations. And I was like, yay, I passed the test. That's so great. The recruiter called me back and he told me congratulations. And he told me the rate of pay. He's like, is this okay? Is this dollar amount okay? And I was like, what? Yes, that is okay. What? And then the position was going to be starting by Thursday. I was literally like working on the clock. I had to get everything done so quickly, but it was great because I was able to start making money immediately. You know how it works? Like when you get a job, like you got to have some time. Like you got to put a paycheck in a hole and you'll get it later. So I was like, okay, this is all good. And the best part about this job literally was like, I was not told how flexible this job was. Like I said, I have kids. Kids have doctor's appointments. Kids, they get wild and crazy sometimes. I have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. I needed a flexible job, but I did not realize that this was the flexible job of the year. So you have to work 8 hours a day because it's a full-time position, unless you let them know, hey, I can't do 8 hours today or whatever. But I can work those 8 hours the way that I want to work those 8 hours. So I can clock in at 9 a.m. I can clock out at 11. I can clock back in at 3. I can clock back out at 4. I mean, I can do my hours however I want. If I want to wake up at 12 o'clock in the morning and be super ambitious, whatever I want to do, I can do it. And I get paid weekly, which is typically what people want to get paid. And like I said, this is not my final destination, but this is something out of amongst so many other things where God taught me faith and patience, okay? As soon as I allow myself to not be desperate, but to have faith in God and say to myself, this position, that first initial position, that money that they were making in the actual job, I said, this is not going to work for me. And I let it go. And I had no other options. My only option was faith in saying, God, I trust you. And I trust that you are going to make a way. And, you know, a lot of people, they say that they have faith and they trust God. You don't realize that a lot of the time you close your hand, and until you let go of that thing and open your hands to be able to receive from God, a lot of the time you are blocking your own blessing. How can God give you something if your hand is closed so tightly? Faith is not doing things out of desperation. Faith is not saying, oh, I'll trust God as long as XYZ. A lot of the time, God will put us in positions that seem like we are backed into a corner. And those are the times where you really have to turn on your faith, which you should always have that faith. But in those positions, you really have to know that God is going to come through. And I have so many moments like that in my life where I can say, like, I just felt like, is this going to work out? I had questions like, man, I don't know. And those are the moments that led me to be who I am today and have the faith that I have today, that God is always going to make a way, even when I am going through things. Those times where I went through things, it helped me to gain wisdom, to be young and to be able to say, like, God is good, and really know what that means and not just say it. And also, like, when I was younger, I used to hear people say all the time, God may not come when you want him to come, but he's always on time. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't know what that meant. Like, how is God on time when he don't come when you want him to come? I didn't understand that as a child. But as the wise young lady that I am today, I understand that, you may want something at a certain time where it's just not the right time for you. You may not be able to handle a certain thing, or that just may not be the thing for you in that moment, right? But when it's time, oh, you better believe God is gonna set you up for a blessing, okay? And I really want to get into that on another video, but there's a quote that came to my mind, and this is not anything that I've ever heard. This is literally from my own mind and from my own life. But the quote is, the moment that I stop saying, are you listening, God? And I start saying, God, I am listening, my life changed forever. And I wanted to leave that with you guys, because this story that I just told you guys about how God gave me the perfect job, the working while I wait, I want you guys to understand that this is one story amongst so many other stories where God came through just in the nick of time. And where my faith being tested and actually sticking to God and what I knew God was going to do in my life, and not allowing people to scare me, because the devil likes to play in fear. Not allowing anyone to scare me, but to sit there and say, I have faith in God and God is going to come through. It has always blessed me. So just remember that, guys, and I will see y'all later, and bye.